you came back. Well, this is part 2, and in this we're going to look at your racing shoes, your trail shoes and your spikes. If you've not seen part 1 yet, go back and watch that, the link's below, and if you're watching this one, enjoy. Okay, so now we're going to talk about our racing shoes. Now, racing shoes have evolved quite a bit over the last couple of years, but we'll start off with our sort of traditional racing shoe design, which is very much a stripped back, very aerodynamic, very lightweight. There's not much overlays or anything like that. It's all meant to be, to help you go fast and not have any weight on your feet or anything like that. So in store, what we stock that fits into that sort of that traditional sort of racing shoe is the New Balance 1400. Now, this shoe can be, is perfect for anything from sort of like a 5k race all the way up to marathon distance. I've seen this shoe been used. This is obviously the women's colourway. The men's is very similar actually. They just changed the pink out for a bit of a green. But that, as you can see there, is, there's not a huge amount of cushion on that shoe going through. It's got a nice little bit of tread on it for when it's wet out on the roads and things like that. But that shoe, your 1400, quite a traditional sort of running shoe. The shoe I wear, or I have worn, I did my first ever half marathon, was the Brooks Hyperion. This is a fantastic shoe. Brooks have just brought out a couple of the newer racing shoes that are built on the Hyperion brand name, but are very different to this Hyperion shoe. As you can see, it's again, not much cushioning, really aerodynamic in its sort of design. It's a lot thinner, narrower sort of fitting than sort of your everyday trainers and things like that. So that was the Brooks Hyperion, a fantastic shoe. And then I suppose, we looked at it in the racer trainer category, but it was traditionally a racing shoe. The Adidas Boston, obviously, it's now fitting a little bit into that racer trainer sort of category because there are some lighter sort of shoes within that sort of racing shoe line now. But again, it's still streamlined in its design. There's not huge amounts of overlay. It's still really lightweight. It's got a little bit more cushion in there than those other two racing shoes I've just shown you. And then from Hoka, there is the Hoka Ray High. So this one is really lightweight. There's no hardened rubber at all on this shoe. It's completely the nice soft Hoka foam across there. Really sort of lightweight, sort of mesh upper. Really breathable, even taking out some of the weight there over the toe box and give it so you can have a little bit more stretch on that. This is extremely light, really sort of flexible as well through the shoe, and it's actually still got the cardboard in there, but I'm flexing it like that with the cardboard in. That's one of Jade's racing shoes from Hoka. Now, the way racing shoes have changed over the last couple of years is through the sort of introduction of the carbon fibre plates, and obviously that sort of started, well, carbon fibre plates have been in running shoes for a lot longer than when they came into the racing shoes, but obviously Nike brought out the Nike Vaporfly, and that was this huge sort of revolutionary new racing shoe in a very different design. Now this is the original Nike Vaporfly 4%. This is what I first started racing in, my first sort of carbon fibre plated shoe. So you've got that carbon fibre plate that runs all the way from the heel to the front of the shoe. This really soft PVEX foam, which is the Nike call the Zoom X foam. It's really soft, really cushion responsive, and basically what that plate does is act like a little bit of a spring as you move through it, but that foam then compresses and again springs back and takes away the impact on as you run, which you traditionally didn't get in a racing flat because it was limited in its cushion. It was a little firmer in its cushioning, so this was a very different sort of way of doing it, and really that carbon fibre plate acts to sort of stabilise the soft plushness of this cushion. So if you think back to, or you think of the Hoka Clifton, which is a really soft, really plush sort of cushioning, it's pretty similar to what you get in sort of this, but obviously you've got that carbon fibre plate just to sort of, you know, stabilise that so it doesn't feel sort of like mush underfoot. Again, it's quite a narrow sort of aerodynamic design to it, especially around the heel section, and that can make it a little bit tricky when you're trying to turn corners and things like that, and the stabilisation around the heel there. But that was this came out back in 2016. This was the original sort of carbon plated racing shoe, super racing shoe, whatever you want to sort of call it. And its origins come a little bit from Hoka, because the guys who designed this actually worked for Hoka prior to Nike coming on board and saying, look, you know, we'll give you some more money and things like that, come and design it for us. And as you can sort of see, there's quite a Hoka-esque design to that sort of shoe. What that meant though is that Hoka's carbon plated shoe, which they had been designing, had to sort of go back to the drawing board, and instead what they came out with was the Hoka Carbon Rocket. And the Carbon Rocket, as you can sort of see, it sort of looks closer to those traditional running shoes than that sort of max cushioned racing flat. Obviously it has that carbon fibre plate. It's a little bit dirty underneath here because it's been worn quite a few times by Jade, but as you can see, you just in that hole there, you can get through to the carbon fibre plate in there. And the plate within the Hoka shoes is different to that in the Vaporfly. It's a forked design, so it's from the heel, comes through and then breaks out into two little forks. So you've got one under the little toe and then a bigger, thicker sort of fork under the big toe. And basically the little toe aims to try and spring you over onto the big toe, so you can really drive off that big toe and spring forward. So that was the Carbon Rocket, the first carbon plated shoe from Hoka. They then went into that sort of max cushion design and brought out the Carbon X. Now this is a lot more suitable for a lot more people than the Carbon Rocket. The Carbon Rocket has a 1mm drop, and so if you are used to sort of any pains in the Achilles and the calves and things like that, it might be a little bit unsuitable for you on that. The Carbon X isn't though. It's more traditional sort of Hoka heel to toe drop. A lot more cushioning on it. Designed primarily for sort of like the ultra races and marathon, but for me personally, I just think it's a little heavy for a marathon shoe. But Jim Walmsley broke the world 50-mile world record in a pair of these, and just missed out on breaking the 100k world record as well during that same attempt. So a lot more cushioning in there, closer to that sort of profile that you get in that Nike Vaporfly, but it's a little firmer in the foam. And then this is Nike's current iteration of the Vaporfly. This is the Vaporfly Next Percent. So I've worn this, Manchester Half and things like that. The foam in this gets a little firmer than it did in the original. I actually prefer the original over the Next Percent, but it does get a little bit more width fitting in it. Upper design is plastic sort of overlay. Doesn't have any water, everything like that. Doesn't have water in and things. And a little more traction as well on the Next Percent. They've obviously brought out a new one since then, which Kipchoge wore when he did his sub 2 hours performance back in Vienna back in last October. And now all the other brands have also got their version of a carbon plated shoe. But that's sort of the evolution of racing shoes there. So trail shoes now. Again, we don't have a huge range of trail shoes here at Made to Run. We are growing that and expanding it, but most of the trails we've got around here in St Helens tend to be sort of dirt, gravel sort of paths and things like that, from Sankey Valley to the Dream and Carmill Dam and such. And for those shoes, you could easily get away with a road shoe, and for the price of having to buy an extra shoe just to go onto the trails and stuff like that, most people will choose to use the road shoe for that purpose. But obviously, if you're heading further afield, or if it's in the middle of winter and it's getting really muddy and stuff like that, and you want a little bit more tread as you head off road, then this is where a trail shoe is going to come in. And what we've got though is a good range between the different types of trail shoe and the use you'd want to use them for. So if we're going off to the fells, really muddy sort of field, stuff like that, really wet rocks and stuff, so heading up to the Lake District or over to the mountains in Wales, we've got the VJ brand. It's the VJ iRock. Again, this is really sort of, real fell racing sort of shoe. We've got the VJ Extreme, which is just behind me, just there, which is a little bit more cushioned, more designed for that ultra sort of trail running sort of scene. But the iRock, as you can see, really sort of streamlined in its design. Extremely sort of aggressive tread. Going to be very similar to your Mud Claws and things like that from Innovate. We've then got your Saucony Peregrine, which is Again, still has a relatively aggressive tread, with a little bit more cushion to it, a little bit more weight. This is the sort of shoe that a lot of people are going to enjoy, whereas the IROC's going to be a little bit more niche. So this is if it's going to get a bit muddy and stuff like that out there around St Helens trails and stuff, or if you're further afield and you've got a little bit more tread and a little bit more mud and things out on your trails. This is where the Peregrine comes in. Really nice sort of tread to it, nice bit of cushioning, so if you have got a bit of road as well in that run, you've still got some cushioning on there. What you've got is a rock plate as well, so just this woven sort of bit that you can just see through those holes there. That stops any sort of sharp rocks or anything like that really penetrating through and hitting the foot and causing any injuries. We've also got on the Peregrine as well is actually ice needle holes. So if you are going to head up to the Highlands and stuff like that in Scotland with the ice and stuff like that, or you're going abroad to somewhere where there's going to be some ice and you want to do some trail running and things like that, the Peregrine is a fantastic shoe for that. And actually it sits at an amazingly good price considering all those sort of little bits and pieces it's got in there. It's £110, which is for a trail shoe with all of that in there. It's a really competitive, really nice sort of price. And then if you are sort of more based with the trails that we've got here in St Helens, like I say, where mostly you're going to be running from tarmac roads, everything like that, onto the trails, which is just sort of gravel dirt paths, but you want something with just a little bit of tread on there for when you do hit patches of mud, or when the paths and the gravel paths sort of become a little slippy underfoot because of a lot of loose gravel and things. Then we've got our all-terrain shoe, or a hybrid shoe, or even a house-to-home shoe as it can sometimes be called. In store, what we've got is we've got the Hoka Challenger. There's a couple other trail shoes that Hoka do that are very similar in terms of for the sort of terrain and things like that, and offer slightly different technology and stuff. But we stock the Hoka Challenger mostly because I love this shoe. I've run this shoe numerous times, from just training all the way to racing in it. Parbold Hill Race, my first ever win at Parbold Hill Race, I won it in a pair of Hoka Challengers. Was absolutely fantastic on the road, slipped like mad on the farmers' fields, and had just about enough grip on the rocky sort of sections. But I've also used it for the Tour of Merseyside last year when I won that, on the Monday race up and down the hills and across the beach, and then on the cross country as well. It was in the middle of summer, so it wasn't a real cross country to the extent of the real mud sort of things, but it was a great shoe for both of those purposes. Obviously there's plenty of other trail shoes as well, but the three we stock here, or three of the ones we stock here, there's a couple others that just fit a little bit more in between and things like that of those three shoes, but there's your trail shoes. So spikes. Now again, this is a really niche sort of area, so we don't stock a huge variety of spikes. But what you've got, you start off with your cross-country spikes for those doing the cross-country and the longer sort of distances on that. You might also choose to use them as a long-distance track spike if you're going to be doing 10Ks and things like that, and I'll explain why in a second. Then we've got our middle distance sort of spikes. So again, you might use these for the 10Ks, but these will go all the way down to the 800 metres as well. And then you've got sprint spikes. So your cross-country spike generally has a little bit more cushion in the heel there, to allow you, as you tire and things like that, and you start to heel strike a little bit, or as if you're trying to run up the hills and things like that, and you're landing on your heels slightly, or coming downhill and landing on the heel, and you just want that little bit more cushioning, plus a little bit of tread as well around the heel, just to stop you from slipping in the mud. Obviously then you've got your spike placement underneath as well, and we sell the spikes obviously to screw in there as well. So that's what you're looking for in a cross-country spike, or even in a longer distance track spike. You want that cushioning towards the heel section, as well as obviously under the forefoot, but you're going to start to land on the heel a little bit more as you tire, and that's where that cushioning comes in. In a middle distance sort of track spike, so again you might use it for 10Ks, but probably it's going to be more the 800s, the 1500s, maybe a 5K track and things like that. As you can see there, that was landing on the floor there. You've got this heel, doesn't really want to touch the ground, it really wants to try and get you up onto your toes as you run, and allow you to really drive forward off the toes rather than braking by landing on the heel and coming down. So less cushioning obviously in that heel section, and that's how it differs there to that sort of longer distance and cross-country sort of spike. And then you've got your sprint spike. So again, if we imagine that's lying on the ground there, again you can see there's pretty much no heel to that at all. Up a little bit closer, really flat, you're sprinting, you're not touching that heel, you're running 100, 200 metres in this shoe, and you're just going as fast as you possibly can. That heel is never going to touch the ground, it's completely driving straight off the toes and going forward. thing when it comes with spikes as well is that generally they don't feel comfortable on your feet. You're not going to put on a spike and it'd be like a trainer where you go, oh wow, that's just so cushioned, that feels so comfortable around the foot, things like that. No. When you put on a spike, it's not going to feel comfortable. If anything, it's going to feel really quite uncomfortable. And generally as well, you're going to want them to feel tighter fitting rather than that spacious sort of room you might want in a training shoe, where obviously your feet are going to expand as you run because you're going to run for a longer period of time. But obviously in a spike, cross country is going to be 10, 12k. You're not going to run any further than that in the spike because you're going to warm up and cool down in something different. On the track, you're probably going to go up to a 10k in them, and that's it. So but you want them to feel secure. You don't want to be moving at speed and feel like the shoe's going to fall off. And obviously on the cross country, you want it to feel really nice and snug because you don't want to get sucked off in the mud. So that's your cross country spikes. Alright guys, so there you go. That's the different types of trainers and how you identify them and what you might be wanting to use them for. If you've got any questions or anything like that, then drop them in the comments below or drop us a message on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram. You can give us a call on 01744 555 088 or just drop us an email at run@madetorun.co.uk and I'll happily get back to you and answer those questions. In the next video, I'll talk about how to find the right fit in your shoe. So we'll look at different width fittings. We'll look at sort of how you measure whether the shoe is giving you enough room and not too much room in the forefoot of the shoe, where the toes are and the toe box and things like that. We'll look as well, just briefly, at some different lacing systems, but I'll do another video on that as also. And then I'll do another video for you soon, which will talk about the sort of shoes I run in and what I use them for, and that will relate quite a bit to this one and give a bit more practical examples to relate to this video. Alright.